STW Eurodrive, now empowered.
From Creamer Media in Johannesburg, this is the Real Economy Report. Our top stories this week. The regulator is confident that renewable energy targets can be met. The developed world wants commitments from South Africa at Copenhagen. And we highlight the issue of acid mine drainage. South Africa's Department of Energy has set a renewable energy target of 10,000 gigawatt hours by 2013, which NERSA feels can be easily achieved with assistance from the renewable energy feed-in tariff.
I think that we will meet that 2013 target and probably even exceed it. But key in meeting that is that we have to have all of the legislative requirements very clear and without providing any unnecessary hurdles for the developers and the investors.
The regulator recently held public hearings after it issued the second phase of the refit, which included tariffs for concentrated solar power, solid biomass, biogas, and solar photovoltaic technologies. It also drafted a power purchase agreement and considered responses to both of these documents, determined to ensure that they get it right first time.
We received 72 written responses, but if you classify them according to the responses to the refits and what we had sent out, it probably comes to about 118 responses on the different items that we had sent out. One part is that most of the comments, unlike the comments we had first, were satisfied to a large extent with the price levels, although in other cases they wanted more clarity. But the one that was more overwhelming in that is on the concentrated solar power or just the photovoltaics, that storage seems to be an issue. There needs to be a rethink there. Most of the comments were also on the power purchase agreements, where those were varying. Financial institutions at a different view, developers at a different view, so it's very difficult to summarize. By the 30th of October, the latest, we'll have a PPA. Earliest could even be the end of September.
These steps bring South Africa ever closer to realizing implementation of renewable energy projects.
We have more than 10 license applications that we have here. Most of them have indicated readiness, and I think that it will be a question of just the construction times and the other permits that they have to get once everything has been cleared. But the applications are here ready, and they're just waiting for the other to fulfill the other requirements of the regulations, and we should have them ready. And these that we have also, to a large extent, aligned themselves with the grid, that they can connect to the grid, so there shouldn't be delays in getting them to connect to the grid.
STW Eurodrive, now empowered.
The global climate change negotiations in Copenhagen draw ever closer, and the issue of exactly what various countries are willing to commit to has made it to the top of the agenda. Christy van der Merwe reports.
On his recent visit to South Africa, Swedish Prime Minister Fredrik Reinfeldt met with South African President Jacob Zuma. The two major topics of discussion were the global financial crisis and climate change.
The climate issue, we are trying to elaborate with the 2-degree target, very much linked to the most developed countries in the world. And of course, we think that to be able to meet the 2-degree target, we also need commitments by the major emitters, the fastest growing of the developing countries. South Africa is absolutely strategic in this group, both to link to its own emissions, but also link to how it could have an impact on the rest of Africa and the G77. So that I'm here to talk with the President. We have seen in the past very good cooperation on climate change with South Africa, and of course I want to make sure that they are engaged and that we work together now coming to Copenhagen.
Despite this appeal from the developed world, the South African cabinet has indicated that it is not ready to commit to any greenhouse gas emission reduction targets that may undermine the country's growth trajectory. South Africa's climate change negotiators are also insisting on financial flows for the developing world from developed countries, so as to pay for adaptation to the changing climate. This issue was also addressed at the meeting between the two leaders.
Of course, we will bring up issues regarding financing. The Commission will present in Brussels today a first paper on how an upfront financing might look on the European Union side. That will probably be part of the talks in Pittsburgh at G20, and Jacob Zuma is also coming to Pittsburgh. So, of course, also to discuss the financing issues, which is more on adaptation measures on climate change.
Acid mine drainage has been termed as one of the most significant threats to South Africa's environment. Loni Prinsloo takes a look at a possible solution to the problem.
The Western Utilities Corporation, a wholly owned subsidiary of ARM-listed Watermark Global, has developed a holistic, integrated plan for the treatment of acid mine drainage in the Western, Central and Eastern basins. The plan envisages the start of plant construction in 2010, with the generation of first product early 2011. Key role players in resolving the environmental threat point out that there is a tight deadline for decisions by State and Rand Water if their proposed plan for a cost-effective, sustainable solution is to succeed. The urgency of implementing a solution rests in the fact that currently no cost-effective, sustainable means of dealing with the 155 million litres of acid mine drainage that could arise daily in as little as 3 years is being applied. In the absence of this, the risk of uncontrolled decanting of acid mine drainage with consequent environmental damage is rapidly increasing. Western Utilities Corporation CEO Jaco Schoeman tells us more.
Well, essentially what will happen is the contamination that's currently taking place in terms of elevated salinity levels being discharged after the mines have treated the water will continue. That will continue for as long as it takes to find a solution. And that is costing the mines currently 12 million rand, and that is unsustainable. So the effect of that would be that the mines will essentially close down, and that liability will then revert to the state. The water will rise to surface. You will then contaminate groundwater, possibly cause sinkhole formation, and destroy all ecosystems in terms of rivers where this water will be discharged. So it will be an environmental disaster happening if we don't address the solution going forward.
The company intends to implement the ABC process developed by South Africa's Council for Scientific and Industrial Research to treat the acid mine drainage. However, Schoeman notes that the selection of technology is only part of the planned solution.
We have done an extensive evaluation of technologies, of existing technologies, and we then did specifically pilot plants based on 2 precipitation processes. Based on the pilot plants, we then selected the CSIR's ABC process because it could continuously produce drinking water to SANA's Class 1 and SABS 241 standards. So for that reason, we've already done all the engineering work to detailed level. We've selected the technology and we're proceeding with that technology going forward. So technology in it per se has been addressed, but what we need to understand is technology only makes up one leg of the solution. You have to address where do you get the water from, the various resources. How do you get that water to a centralized treatment plant where your technology kicks in? The third leg is, have you looked at all the integrated regulatory processes that you need to adhere to in order to implement a scheme like this? And then the fourth one is obviously, who do you intend selling this water to, and your financial solution. It needs to be, the water that you produce needs to be competitive in terms of pricing to Rand Water, and it obviously also needs to be of the correct quality. Now, we've addressed all 5 of these, of which technology is only one leg.
And now for a sneak preview of this week's Engineering News magazine. Read our cover story on Fighter Town, South Africa, Limpopo's Mikado Air Force Base, an aerotechnology hub. We report on an automated breathalyzer that immobilizes trucks when it detects illegal alcohol levels. And read about a big wave energy project under investigation in the Western Cape. And in Mining Weekly this week, in our cover story, we report that investors are taking a closer look at rare earth elements as technology and the green energy revolution picks up pace. Read how surging Chinese demand does little to dent excess capacity in ferrochrome production. And we report that debt hit Metarex's shares rise as the company moves towards becoming an exclusive copper company. That's Creamer Media's Real Economy Report. Join us again next week for more news and insight into South Africa's real economy.
Creamer Media's engineering news has delivered unmatched insight into the real economy. For breaking news, visit engineeringnews.co.za. The Engineering News, not just for engineers.